Welcome to What's the Big Idea with Bo Wills. Join Bo as he interviews candidates for the Walton County Board of Commissioners 2024 election. We'll cover races in Districts 1, 3, and 5. In District 1, incumbent William Boots McCormick is up against Dan Curry and Trey Nick.
District 3 sees Brad Drake facing Chuck Wilder in the primary, with the winner going up against independent Sean Roll.
District 5 has Tony Anderson competing with Barbara Morano, Dr. Edmund Zelodia, and Democrat Michael Miller.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Bo Wills. Thanks for tuning in to my podcast, What's the Big Idea with me, Bo Wills. This concludes my candidate conversation series where I'm interviewing candidates for the Board of County Commissioners here in Walton County. The last episode is What's the Big Idea with Boots McCormick running for District 1 Board of County Commissioners. Check it out.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity.
Well, Boots,
like I said off camera, man,
it's been a minute.
4 years last time we did this.
And it flies by, but it seems like it's an eternity all at the same time.
Well, first, I'm going to do a cheap promo. Of course, you know it's our bicentennial, too, and we got all kind of events, but I want to present you with this challenge point in recognition of our
This will get me a drink somewhere around town if we're handing out coins.
Yeah. Might not mention it came from me, but no, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Well, tens of people will see this.
Yeah.
So, as you alluded to, you first ran for commissioner in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Got sworn in November 2020.
Yeah.
And it started off really hectic. We were in the middle of a pandemic and had some personal issues.
It's kind of a wild time to come on the scene.
Yeah, it's been a challenge.
Before we get into the last 4 years, and we talked about this back in 2020 when we did this to begin with, but tell me just real quick for people who don't know Boots all that well, where are you from and how did you get into politics? What have you done professionally?
Sure. A quick bio is grew up in Walton County, graduated from Freeport High School in 79, played on Freeport's inaugural football team. I just aged myself on that one, didn't I? My granddaddy was born and raised. The family originated in South Walton, but like to starve to death, this before statehood. So they moved back over here. Sure wish we still had that property from Point Washington. And my granddaddy was one of several siblings, Black Creek, and then he moved the family to Freeport. My daddy, who would be 87 if he was still alive, was raised here. And I was actually born in Mobile, Alabama, but on a fluke. My mama's people were from Mobile, and she was young. And my daddy did tugboating his whole life. And it was time for him to get off. She would go there early. She goes in labor. I'm born and brought home. But I've lived here.
So you're an Alabamian, really?
Well,
I am too, so you're in good company.
And, I am a Road Tide guy. Maybe that's where I get it from, just that little bit of touch of Alabama in me. And then my son, only one child, my son, who's 43 now. Good Lord. But he's here. He's went to college and then served in the Army and did a couple tours overseas. He's home. He's been a deputy sheriff now for about 15 years. Worked most of his time as a school resource officer. He gifted me with 3 grandchildren. My oldest one being a granddaughter. So she was always the daughter we never had. And she just graduated high school, and 2 weekends ago we shipped her off to Florida. So you're getting over when your grandchildren.
Right.
And which was a mix of happiness, but I also personally felt just a little bit of failure in that I couldn't get things to keep her home. But hey, you know what we do.
Well, maybe she'll be back, right?
Yes.
My son starts 10th grade. My younger son starts 8th grade today. And I hope I don't have grandkids to worry about for a little while.
Let me tell you something. Grandkids are better than kids because when you get caught up, you take them home.
Right.
But came right out of high school. Got married a couple months out of high school. Me and my first wife, we were married, and kind of changed. I was headed to University of Arkansas at Monticello football scholarship, but ended up getting married. That kind of changed plans. Did about almost a 10-year stint as a merchant mariner.
Oh, that's cool.
Came up through the ranks of that. Then got tired of being, and I originally was going to go to school for my degree. Well, the degree I actually wanted was criminal justice. I just had that bug since I was a kid. I mean, we all grew up. You want to be, cops, but went into the academy. Got hired right out of the academy by Quinn McMillan back in 1990. Served till 2025 as a full-time deputy, and then stayed on another 5 years as a reserve deputy. I was working part-time as a school resource deputy, which is one of the many hats I wore during the sheriff's department, just kind of like a substitute SRO, till the state changed the rules to the fact that you can't now serve 2 oaths of office at the same time.
I see.
So I've been kind of badge-free for about a year. Also during that time, I served 15 years with the Freeport Fire Department. I was a training lieutenant for them. So public service goes back. I thought I was finally retired.
What year was that you retired from the police force? Or the
full
sheriff's?
time?
Yes, sir.
2015.
2015.
Then I stayed on it in a reserve capacity for about 5 more years. 2016, served on a couple planning boards for the city, couple whacks at that. City ran for city council, did a term there. While I was finishing that term out, I ran for county commissioner in 2020. And here we are today.
What made you want to be commissioner back in 2020? Do you remember some overwhelming sense of duty that you wanted to correct? Were you happy with the commissioners at the time? Or did you just need something to do?
I got to admit, since I had been in touch with county problems, being the deputy sheriff, especially in my generation before there was the numbers we have now, you get privy to a lot of problems all over the county. Part of that, and probably the other is Commissioner Chapman had announced his retirement, and I had no intentions of running for for county commissioner, but I looked at the pool of candidates. It was 5. None of them were from this area, District 1, by the way, and actually tried to recruit somebody to run, but just didn't feel like, nothing against the other individuals. I just didn't think, I didn't even know who they were, so obviously I haven't spent time. So I threw my name in a hat and was fortunate enough to win. And here we are. What surprised you once you got into office? Are there things you learned, procedures that you learned? Oh, Lord, yes. You're talking about hindsight being 20/20. First thing, I got overwhelmed. It was COVID, and I was thrown into that, do we shut down or not? And all this information was coming in from the feds, the state, even from county to county. And I was trying to make a determination, right or wrong, based off what we need to do. I've never been when it comes to being a county commissioner, it's not about personal wants. It's not about what I think is right. It's not about party agendas. It's about what do we do to benefit the most citizens we can. So got into that fight on shutting the county down, which we kept it open. Still think that was the right thing to do based off our circumstances, Also, too, and just to get this out of the way, my wife was diagnosed with cancer shortly after I got sworn in, and she passed away that April. So, and then 10 days before that, I buried my brother. So it was very challenging. But political-wise, when you put that personal stuff aside, I think the biggest thing that surprised me was and I knew it's going to be a drop, but just the volume. I mean, the city has volume, and it's a lot of the same issues and stuff, but just the volume. We were hitting that growth spurt. It was almost overwhelming. I mean, I would sit at my office and just go, where do we go from here? It's just, and I don't think nobody anticipated the volume of growth that quick. I think we all knew we were going to grow, but I don't think none of us who was involved here at the time knew just how fast it was coming. And to say that we've been playing catch up, it's an understatement.
Right.
You know.
Well, infrastructure is obviously the topic that seems
Sure.
to gathers most people's attention, and even that's sort of an umbrella label for water,
sewer,
roads,
schools, roads,
all the things that
public safety. And that's one thing one of the things I have spent probably a quarter of my time on is trying to educate people about the job. We're responsible, except for the school system, at the end of the day, the Board of County Commissioners are responsible for the whole gamut, from public safety to roads to recreation to all, a whole gamut of stuff that is considered public safety. It's just not about traffic on the roads. So it's very, very large umbrella when you talk about infrastructure.
Well, and the county had been growing. It's not like all of this growth sort of just like popped up overnight.
That's true.
But through COVID, it sort of grew exponentially.
Yeah.
Would you say that we're caught up on infrastructure?
Oh, no.
No. It's kind of a silly question.
No,
but
and me and you've talked before. First of all, I'm just frank. I don't have time for diddy-daddle. I don't like fluff. I just tell it the way it is. So for our new people that don't know me, I'm just straightforward.
Yeah.
With that said, no, we were not ready. Could we have done it earlier? Could we have done a better job earlier? Sure, there's always room for improvement. But I don't think any of us were prepared for the fastness, the volume at one time. Mm-hmm. And it just overwhelmed us on this stuff. To answer your question, we were not ready.
So where does that leave us with getting caught up on providing the infrastructure to manage the capacity we're already at?
Yeah.
Not to say what's coming still.
Well, which area? I mean,
Well, I guess South Walton is the place I feel
Walton,
like is the most
over I will tell
capacity.
You what.
Do you agree with that, or?
In some areas, I do. In some areas, I don't. One strain in South Walton that has to do with infrastructure is the road system. I get it. But the Achilles heel down in South Walton, which is the same as my district, and we're relying on state roads. Our main in and outs of state roads. Y'all in the same boat I am. You've got 98 and 331. I have 20, 331.
Right.
And of course, let me put this out there. I live in the same traffic. I live up near the elementary school. It takes me 30 minutes to get out of my house.
Right.
First of all, I recognize the problem. But the problem, our Achilles heels, when it comes to traffic, which I think is one of the biggest concerns right now, and complaints I hear about South Walton, is getting the state to step in and do the upgrades they need to do. Again, I'm not passing the buck here, but what good would it do me to improve any county roads or build new connector roads collection roads, if the pipeline's full? And to me, the biggest Achilles heel we have in South Walton, as I have in Freeport, is the two interchanges, 331 and 98 and Highway 20, 331. Till the state recognizes this and comes up with a solution, I'll continue to take the heat for the traffic. But what more can we do on the county side? Actually, I don't think it's the county roads that are the problem. Again, think about this. When you have a collector line or collector road, and it all ties into 98 or 331 or, for me, 20, right. And that's full because of a lack of effort by DOT to address issues.
I don't see how they improve 98 to a degree that can handle the high, when traffic is the worst, it's just going to be that way.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like they can build another road.
I know, but I think there are some ways to mitigate some of it. Maybe not fix it, but mitigate it. And, by the way, I serve on the Okaloosa-Walton County TPO board, mm-hmm. and our job is to...
Well, what kind of projects are on the TPO board's horizon that we have not had funding for?
Right now, you've got phase 1 of Highway 20.
Okay.
The first phase is to 4-lane 20 from right outside the city limits to right outside the city limits. Within that, one thing that I've been able to influence to some degree is inside phase 1. The first phase is to address that intersection. Mm-hmm. Again, when they started, we not too many years ago, we went from a 2-lane to a 4-lane on 331.
Right.
And all we ended up with was a 4-lane parking lot
right.
instead of a 2-lane. And the intersections, again, the bottlenecks are these 2 intersections. Mm-hmm. Also, the same thing over the Mid-Bay Bridge. That traffic over there will back up 20. You got to fix these. I've been asked several times, and one of the things I'm trying to get Secretary Gaynor and some of them's attention on is to think about, since they finished up that first and they're working towards 331, maybe consider here and there doing flyovers. If you've been to Panama City Beach mm-hmm. in the last couple, you know how they did with Hathaway Bridge?
Yes.
Went to a flyover. Keep that east and west down there going and have these long merge.
Well, that's kind of what they did at the Mid-Bay Bridge in 22 when they improved
and
that intersection.
Same thing here is having a 4-way intersection with the volume of traffic we have. Mm-hmm. They've got to be able to keep that north and south going with the east and west just kind of fading in and fading out. But I'm not a traffic engineer. So,
right. It sounds like a good idea, but who knows practically.
That's what we're doing.
The phase 1 of Highway 20, so has that been approved or where?
Yes. Phase 1's been approved.
Is it funded?
No. We're year 2 into the 5-year funding plan on that. So we're looking at.
What's the total cost of phase 1?
Could not give you exact numbers. I will tell you this, that funding-wise, we're 2 years into their funding process, and they're saying it's about a 5-year process. But that's just to acquire the right-of-way. I don't know when we're going to see shovels in the ground on that project.
I think a sense of frustration for people is that you've got a solution, but you're saying it's going to take 7 years.
Yeah, and I feel that frustration. And just for the folks that are new into this arena is I don't have the authority to even put a traffic sign up on a state road. That's not to take away our responsibility by no means. And I don't want to sound like I'm passing the buck. We have responsibilities, but it just doesn't make sense for us to do a bunch of improvements right now on our side for just what's it going to help. I get a lot of conversation about bypass roads in Freeport, north or south. And I keep telling people, I said, if we spent these millions of dollars, what would be the effect? Would it help or not? Well, when whatever you put in is going to tie right back into the bottleneck, mm-hmm. So. And we all have different perspectives of things. And again, let me say this I'm not a traffic engineer. Common sense tells me it doesn't matter how many feeder roads we have. If the main pipeline's full,
on the list of priorities, it might not make sense to improve a bunch of roads that are just not really going to address the
issue.
Do you have a sense as to why the funding process takes so long?
I think, and again, just for a disclaimer, anything I say is my opinion, and I don't speak for the whole board. I just speak for my office.
Right.
Part of the problem is the funding mechanism and the formulas that the state of Florida uses for funding projects. They use a population base as how much population is in that particular district. Our DOT district starts at Gaston County and goes all the way to Escambia County. Mm-hmm. We only represent about 11% of the state's population. And since they use population as to where we're going to spend these funds, I think they need to reevaluate that and take in consideration, maybe in the Panhandle. Let me back up. Let me just speak for Walton County. I may only have 85,000 people, but I have 5 million visitors on our roads.
Right.
And so I think the whole formula, how they slice that pie up, needs a major overhaul.
Is any part of the fact, or if it's a fact, that we don't have matching funds to to put with state dollars gives us a lower priority?
I will tell you this. Here's what I've come to find out working on projects. I will say when you put skin in, when the local municipalities or the counties put in, it bumps it up, the priority. We just had a traffic light situation that we got bumped up because through the EDA, which I'm a board member, we were able to get a grant to pay for that. So that's going to bump that project up faster.
Right.
But overall, I think we're in a position in Walton County to be able to meet these matching parts of this. Not to bring up an old wound and pick a scab, but that was the whole purpose of the 1 cent sales tax a while back. People were spoke and we moved on, but that would have gave us these matching funds and be able to do not just match funds for grants, but for state, whatever we need, but also to help us locally. But yes, I think when you put skin into the game, you get a faster response. Do I think Walton County is? I think this time, based on our economy and where we're at today, we could probably match some grants to help the state improvements. And people would say, well, why would you want to put county dollars into state?
Well, don't you have to?
Yeah, you have to. That's why I tell people you have to match these grants.
Right.
And even if they're, that's just the business of the game.
Well, so when we're talking again about phase one, and if we don't know the total cost of phase one, let's just say it's 100% of whatever it is. How much of that does the state pay?
As far as the state's projects, there's no burden on Walton County.
Okay. So the matching funds that are put with that, isn't that considered part of the funding package?
We don't seek grants for DOT to do their work. They have their own funding sources. Now, there are times when there's special little things we need real quick from DOT, like this particular traffic light. They did a warrant study 2 years ago and warranted a traffic light up there at the 331s. Right. And then there was the one down here where West Bay Loop comes back into 20. They funded the light and wrote it 2 years ago. Problem was that there was no power. And till they got that one subdivision right there, that Madison subdivision, got that power there, then of course they jumped on it. And I guess I'm trying to explain why some of these projects take so long. But on the other hand, we're going to be able to get this light quicker because on the EDA side of things, and working with URI, and I'm on the board, we were able to get a military-backed grant.
Oh, I see. That's
going to pay for this light. And something else, too, is we went to DOT.
Which intersection is that?
That would be West Bay Loop and 20 right there, where Hammock Bay comes out right there. There were reasons behind that grant that justify it, but that's going to get done quicker than probably some other lights we've been waiting on for years because we can put the money towards it. To the point that we're even, something else we're trying, and this will be a test bed, is instead of just giving the money to DOT, is we approach them to be the contractor. Our processes are a lot slower, a lot quicker and easier than DOT's process of bidding, engineering, and work. So we're actually going to be the contractor on that based off their specs, and we'll get that done a lot quicker. So there's a lot of things we can do together. I work with the city of Freeport a lot. I lobby a lot for their sewer system. People always ask me that, talking about the infrastructure. Why do you work so hard to get this money for the city? It should be their problem. Well, they're also the franchise for outside the city in the county. Mm-hmm. And like everybody else, I don't want no more septic tanks in the ground.
Right.
So anything I can do or any weight I can add to it to get it, help them to get the funds, why wouldn't I?
Right. How can the board assist regional or, any other organization in establishing more water and sewer lines throughout the county?
I'm going to restrict this to my district and what I've done because I don't know a lot of the other water and sewer districts or franchisees. But like in Freeport, I needed sewer going south. I have one of my pledges was to see how many septic tanks I could take off Chattahoochee Bay. And we had a very high problem over in the Black Creek area. We did all kind of tests, water sources on the whole bay. But when it came back to the numbers, for some reason this particular area had these numbers that were off the charts. And we're thinking, well, we got septic tanks all along the bay, but why so high here? And then it finally realized that's because it was concentrated. We had 300 homes on septic tanks in a small area. It was concentrated. So and when I say me, there's nothing that's ever been accomplished I've done by myself. I'm telling it takes a lot of work from staff and other people. But we was able to successfully, last year, I was able to get secure funding for $8 million, $6 million from the county, and through some other partners, another $1 million from Senator Gaynor through the state to help them extend the sewer south of the city limits. Mm-hmm. And I'm working right now trying to help them to take the sewer east of Freeport. That's our next boom area. You can't go west because Eglin owns all the property. Right. And we've got on the county side, I can't really tell you what all city's got going on. County side, I've got some pretty good projects in the air, which is much needed because we're short on housing in my district. Right. I don't want to see that go on septic tanks. So I'm going to continue to use every ounce of influence. I have flown to Washington, D.C., and I've been in front of all of our Rubio and Scott and all them for federal appropriations. I go to Tallahassee on a regular basis. Hey, Walton County, making sure Walton County gets their piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. And people say, again, go back, why would you put that much effort into the city they're responsible? Well, first of all, I don't want to see the county be in the water and sewer business. Right. What's involved that when I was the city. I'm going to use my position to help with any problem. I'm going to use my influence, if any, to push anything that's good for our citizens. Taking these septic tanks off. I don't want to segue into something else, though, but want to live and learn. I am the vice chair of the Chattahoochee Bay Esquire Alliance, mm-hmm. which encumbers the whole estuary all the way into Alabama. And we just got a grant and got some numbers back. And one of the most surprising things to me was what out of that research, the number one pollutant of Chattahoochee Bay. We talk about development and septic tanks, which doesn't help, but the number one problem was Chattahoochee River polluting, because when you get out of the local tributary and get to Alabama, they still allow you to row your crops up to water sources, and all that ends up into the river up there and comes down. Mm. So people talk about what's the number one pollutant right now of Chattahoochee Bay is Chattahoochee River, And I've been dealing with some of the authorities in Alabama, trying to come a coalition to work together, cross lines and stuff. A lot of work going on there. All that said, going back to why the effort, is just, I've never been one of these people. I always do more than what's required of me. I'm the type of guy, I'll do it, even though it's not me, I'll do it, and then I'll raise Cain about who should have done it, but let's get it done. Let's just work together and get it done, And that's just my mentality.
Well, that's exciting about the funding for the sewer extension east and south. Where is that in the planning process?
Some of these numbers, because of campaign, I'm a couple months behind, but I think it was going to be about an $8 million price tag to get the infrastructure going west, which was actually going to take it further than where it's needed, mm-hmm. because the only land opportunities developer out there, so why not go ahead and get it further than what we need. But, and don't hold me to exact numbers. Sure. It's about an $8 million price tag. I think we're at 5.1.
Well, so it's underway now?
Oh, yeah.
The construction's underway?
No, on the projects, no.
Yeah.
No. We have a lot of developers, and I know, first let me say this, development is a double-edged sword, but a lot of the developers I deal with, and my situation is a little different than South Walton. I have a housing shortage.
Right.
A lot of the population that's coming into this county is coming here, not South Walton, but in my district. Matter of fact, when they redid the district lines, District 1, where population was the largest in the county, they actually took 3,200 residents out of my district to give to Commissioner Anderson to make up his numbers, which of course districts by numbers, not geographical, and to Commissioner Glidewell. So this is area going, I have a housing shortage.
Right.
So,
well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, a lot of the houses in South Walton are second homes. People don't actually live in them. So this is definitely the population center of Walton County.
I think District 1 is kind of, I'm blue collar. I don't say this, but I think District 1's kind of, we're in the middle, and I think we're kind of becoming that blue collar community, you know. So, and a lot of people just enjoy Freeport and Heritage, and we're going through a lot of growing pains just in my district. So it's not just here, it's county-wide,
well,
you know.
Just personally, that's probably my biggest issue is the expansion of sewer and water so you can get more housing into where it needs to be.
Sure.
When do you think the westward extension will be in place?
Right now, I guess I don't have an answer for that. Right now, there's not a push by the developers to start these projects. So, you know.
It's kind of up to them.
Yeah. And that's another thing about development is development drives a lot of things on getting done.
Sure.
You know, people ask me all the time, if you want to segue into development, again, I can see that front is a double-edged sword.
Right.
Yes, I wish the Freeport that I grew up in was still around, or the beaches. I also wish my son, who's 43, was 10 years old again.
Right.
But you have to move forward. You know, you just got to.
Or that your daughter will have a good reason to come back here.
Yeah. You know, one of the most, I told you when she left, it was mixed feelings of, she was always the daughter I never had, so we had a special relationship. But one of the things I felt bad, happy, excited for, but most disappointing is I couldn't fix things for her to stay here. It broke. I felt defeated. And my whole goal for doing this job is not for me. I don't want to see anybody's children. I want a county that when your children get to that point of starting their lives, or grandchildren, or whatever the case may be, unless they choose to leave, I don't want it to be because they can't find decent housing, affordable housing. They can't get a good secondary education or get trade schools to trade them up for jobs. There's not jobs, you know, and all this stuff. I don't want to see our children leave because they can't find or decent paying jobs. To me, when our children leave the county, that's my biggest failure. Your children. So anybody's children.
Yeah, I guess that solution would fall under the category of economic diversification. You know, for me, we got to recruit other businesses here that aren't tourism related, which I think is a tough nut to crack.
No,
really.
it is. Segue into that, just for people who don't know, I'm also on the board of directors on the EDA board. I wear so many hats.
Economic Development Alliance.
Yeah. Which that's our main push. Look, I'm being real here. We're never going to replace tourism as our main financial driver.
Yeah.
But I'm not comfortable with all of our eggs being in one crate. Working through EDA.
Well, that'd be one way to solve the traffic problem is to have tourism to be a smaller chunk of the gross national product here. Which again, I know when you say that, some people go,
I know,
you know.
But no, we need to diversify. One, I just don't like all of our eggs being either. If it's not in the tourist section, it's in the military. And we work hard at EDA trying to diversify some of this. Now, also too now, to be honest with you, people need to be honest about what we can. I think in the past, we didn't do a complete inventory on what we can actually do and support here. I think with the new EDA director, we need to specialize in what we need. Boeing's not coming to Walton County.
Well, why not?
Let me ask you this. When you're
But why not? Why wouldn't a company like Boeing come to Walton
When
County?
you're in a worldwide market, we don't have a deep water port. We got a little bit of a rail system. We don't even have an airport that can support major airlifts with freights and stuff. We just don't have it. Now, what we do have, though, the capability of doing, and this is what we need to be seeking is, over in Panama City, Boeing's got a presence over there. They put certain aircraft together, but they may need a certain gauge or a certain item.
Right, a tier 3 supplier.
There you go, because we do have a decent transportation there.
Well, that was kind of my point. I mean, I was being facetious. Boeing obviously is not going to headquarters in Walton County.
No.
But where is the level of size of business that we can shoot for that's attainable?
I think in the defense industry, we stand good posture and position. I think there's a lot of smaller companies who provide certain elements to the bigger guys that we could deal with. But we're just not set up for a worldwide company. Panama City has a port, so they get a little bit more bigger. But
if you're talking about manufacturing, we could improve our broadband infrastructure and, some of the other things that high-paying jobs look for, like good schools and a diverse, qualified labor pool. I think those kind of things have to come along with housing, which has to come along with water and sewer expansion. It's
like an onion. When you start talking about that, 2 years ago, I flew out to California as part of the EDA team to try to catch the attention of a developer, a huge defense contractor who could have located here because they're not. They could have come here.
They don't need a deep
But
port.
some of the lessons I learned is when you take some of these companies, first they care about their employees, and some of the questions I got asked were not things I went there prepared for. Some is what kind of rec opportunities would my employees have? Do you have a skilled workforce? Can I count on the workforce being there, or do I need to bring it with me? How's the housing? How's the schools? And I mean, you're right. There's a lot of layers that go into attracting people.
I think that we could really do that because we have something that a lot of places don't have, which is fantastic weather.
Sure.
And you're not going to import weather and ecology.
But the number one step, though, is going after candidates that make us an actual spot they can come do their business.
Right.
Pretty much for us in Walton County today, not saying we can't get deep water ports and all that, but today, what we need to be focused on is a lot of our businesses is going to come this way. Of course, you have your private industry, your mom and pops and stuff like that. But what we need to be recruiting is companies there's a demand for their product locally, not shipping it this way, that way, and this way. I think that's the first step is just get set up for that. We got to train workforce. I've been in several conversations with Russell Hughes. Is we put such an emphasis on college, which is great, but not everybody's college material. How do we get in between I've worked with Dr. Stevenson and Russell. How can we get these trade schools up and going? Mike Rowe from
right.
He's got programs, and why can't we just mirror that? Why can't we? If a kid he knows he wants to be a welder when he's in the 10th or 11th grade, because his daddy's a welder. Which, by the way, call a plumber and see how long you got to wait.
Right.
So I'm a big about trade schools. I'm not taking away from the 4-year traditional education, but if not everybody's college material, we got to have that. And why can't we get that?
I mean, if you were 21 years old and were a master plumber, you would be in a really good position, and you could go on and do something else some other time in your life, and that's something that nobody could ever take away from you.
When we teach the trades, I'm big about trade schools.
Oh, I think it's a great idea.
I'm a huge fan of trade schools.
And
you know what else? You can be your own business partner. Eventually,
Right.
You can start your own, if you're a certified plumber and you get that intern and that experience, you can start your own company and be self-sufficient and have your own company. I think trade schools are just great,
Yeah. So, I mean, where are there any trade schools on the board to be developed or started up? Or
we have
stood up?
No, we do have some trade schools on the board. Northwest Florida's got some welding classes up in the north end. They're fixing to break ground in South Walton on a new complex that's going to be built around trades.
Mm-hmm.
I even suggested with Russell when they moved the kids out of what was my high school, was up till yesterday, the middle school, is why not open that, try to bring in, work together in partnership with colleges or whatever and bring in some trades, plumbers, electricians, stuff like that.
Did he like the idea? Or?
Yeah, no, let me tell you something. We have Russell Hughes is one of the most, he is one of the most, he cares about these children. And he cares about all children, not just the smart ones that can go to college or the rich ones. He wants to see them all succeed. And I'm going to say within the next couple of years, we're going to see some improvement in offering some trades here in the county.
Well, that'd be good.
And there's a lot of pieces in play and a lot of joint partnerships. But no, the overall is we want to get into the trade school business and teach these kids trade. Look at some of these folks are making in these trades, or they make really good money.
Oh, no doubt. Like you said,
like I said,
plumber,
when you add
see how long it takes and
how long you got to wait around because it's not enough. And your HVAC goes out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's and it is a good living, and it should be. It's in high demand.
Now, one thing as we go on, we didn't talk about any procedures here or formats, so we're just winging this.
That's exactly
by
right.
the way. So, any other? I mean,
well,
it would do me. Look, I could sit here. I could take one topic and talk 2 hours.
I want to get back to development for a second,
sure,
because we kind of glazed over a portion of it.
Let's go.
And there's definitely this attitude, like you said, leaving Freeport the way it was, the way you remember it, or the beaches the way they were, and we know that cat's out of the bag.
Correct.
And I feel like there's this pressure by some people to really institute some sort of moratorium on new development. And I don't know how much legs that sort of sentiment really has.
Well,
but what is your personal thoughts on just development?
Are we talking about county-wise or in a particular area?
County-wise.
Because it's situated. I see some neighborhoods getting full, and I see some neighborhoods we need some housing in. So, but you want to give me a geographical?
Well, I guess.
Or just an overview of development?
Has there been a development that's been approved that you felt like was, a step too far in terms of overdevelopment? What are some projects you voted no on that were approved 3-2 or?
Well, first of all, the projects that I voted no on had nothing to do with the size it had to do with the rules. I'm going to be dead honest here, and I'm not going to back from this. I believe in property rights. As a county commissioner, my job is not to determine what somebody builds or not builds on their property. It's about that they follow the rules. When I vote no on a project or rezoning, I feel like that project or that ask is outside the four corners of our comp plan and land development code. Now, the other side of that is if a project comes into that perimeter, then I think people have the right to develop it.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about moratorium. There's two words for me on my political side that I think we need to be very careful using. Moratorium and eminent domain. These are tools that when you don't have any other option. I spent 30 years, was in 100 situations where I've had my finger on the trigger, my sights on the target, and had the authority to issue and execute a death warrant instantly. You want that to be your last resort, as long as there's other options. I don't think we're at a point where we need moratoriums or public domain in some issues.
Right.
Now, and also too, I think people need to be fair about this. Let me tell you, if it wasn't for development, what wouldn't be here? You think they'd be a Sacred Heart Hospital? Wasn't too long ago, you didn't have no schools in South Walton.
Right.
I mean, development has, and I catch the same voices that come at me about we need this, and we need this, and we need this, also turn around and fight me on the development. Well, you got to have the numbers to support some of this stuff. But and I'm going to be honest with you too. Depending on the area, I see a trend in South Walton that all of South Walton is trying to be repurposed for something it's never was intended to be nor promoted to be. South Walton has always been a destination. All right, it was never, it was never promoted to be a residential area.
Right.
If you want to live in a tourist destination, fine, come on. But I don't think it's really fair to try to shut other people out who come here for the same reasons,
Well, just to stay on development for a second, and I may be speaking from a spot of ignorance, so just bear with me.
No, there's no ignorance. I mean, we're learning here.
When you bring up a good point that when a development order comes to the commissioner level for a vote, you're really just looking to see if all the check marks and rules have been followed. You don't
want your government, which is another thing too. You hear all this smaller government, keep the government out. But then you turn around and you're telling the government to get more involved. There's got to be a balance there.
So the approvals really happen at the subcommittee level in the technical review and the zoning review board.
We take a lot of that. I'm not a developer. I'm not a stormwater expert. That's why we have these folks. But we're kind of the last check and balance of, is the project within the four corners of our comp plan and our land development code? Now, our land development code is something we control. And by the way, we have made numerous improvements. I think the land development code, in the areas that needs to be stronger or weak, and then where we're so strong on some things, I'm like, that's ridiculous, folks. Why? Or we make these people jump through, So it's about balancing. Where we're at today, and again, I only speak myself, I don't speak, is although I have the ability, the board has the ability. The land code's whatever the board says. The problem is we have tweaked it to the point that now if we do any more tweaking, we're going to get outside of our comp plan from the state. I know we're spending some good money right now and getting a lot of good info with this 2024 group and all that. Great, by the way. But I also think as much emphasis on the land development code needs to be paid to our state comp plan. Remember, this was a state comp plan that started forced on Walton County, and it's had a couple of updates. But just remember this.
So how does it get updated? How do changes to the comp plan happen?
It's a combination of citizen input, the commissioners, pushing to get Tallahassee, us presenting, here's what we think our comp plan should be based off the data. And let's face it.
Have we done that recently?
No, the comp plan. No, it hadn't been. I think the last update was 2008.
So what steps are in play right now to gather that citizen input?
As part of this plan, and I preached this from day one when everybody was, gotta change the comp plan. I said, fine, we need to do that, but we need to also put as much effort on how do we, all this effort about land development code, all this chatter about land development code is updating that. Part of what I see going on is, and we're in joint efforts with planning and all planners, all these other players, is to pretty much us design a comp plan and then go on to Tallahassee and getting it implemented. So we're a little ways off from that.
Isn't there a strategic plan being formulated now, or
we got plans? You name it, we got a plan for it. We got the county's mobility plans, and we've got plans.
It seems like when Mike Barker was here, he was excited about some strategic plan being formulated, but I don't know since he left where it left that effort. But there's not an official strategic plan adopted by the county, is there? Or
not in everything. No, to be honest, we have 5-year plans in road upgrades for the county. We have some. We've got some land development changes we're working on to. We've got the mobility plan in itself, which is doable, but I feel it's a little far-fetched.
Yeah.
I look at what the mobility plans for 30A. You're not going to be able to go down there and do what this plan says. Let's be honest. You're not going to be able to have a lane for this and a lane for that, and that, especially in an area where you buy the property sold by the square foot. 30A, to me, other than safety improvements, is at its max.
Right.
It's at its max, good or bad. And I'm not throwing fault on anybody.
Well, again, the only way to improve traffic on 30A is to make less of it, and I don't know how you do that.
Well, one of the things, and this is just a thought, the only thing, in my opinion, that would relieve the pressure on 30A is we had another east and west corridor. But you know what that means? Cutting a road through that forest, which opens a whole nother lot of communication on a lot of stuff.
Even if you had a really nice walking path that sort of paralleled 98 but was in the state park, a bike path, something where people could get on low-speed vehicles.
I'm agreeable with that. But again, you're talking about state road right away.
Well, exactly. I know there's a whole process that has to
anything
happen.
On the county side, we need to come up to join it to make it connect. I'm there.
Yeah.
But I can't. Does it make sense for me to build a bike path to a road that there's not a bike path and I don't have no control over getting it done?
Right.
I
know the people who want to protect the environment will say, you can't split that because it opens up, some sort of loophole to development.
No, it's not.
But think about how many people are really enjoying the state parks right now. Yes. Not that many. If you had a nice bike path through
let's clear some myths up about, if we're talking about South Walton in particular, let's clear some myths up. There's a lot of misinformation. Mm-hmm. First of all, I don't know if I would support just going. I've got an 8-mile stretch on the west end of the county. There's no county connection between 38 and 98. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Watersound Park way, but that's a private road. A lot of people don't realize that's a private road.
I see.
And can be repurposed tomorrow. I'm not comfortable. Plus, I'm not comfortable not having something in the middle of that 8 miles in case we get a forest fire. You've seen how quick, if I get a fire between Rosemary Beach and Seagrove and through all that, used to be that was just forest, but now it's pocketed here and there with housing. We get a fire out there, I'm going to have people burn to death in their cars. Your child is or family members having a heart attack, and I am a public service retired pro, and that's always dear in my heart. I do believe we need a connector road out there that is owned by the county. I don't know if I would want to go as far as disturbing and digging, but we got a situation out there where we already have a disturbance with a power line. Mm-hmm. Why can't we just build off that bridge everything? Now the rebuttal is, here comes development. Well, let me make a point here, and this really upsets me sometimes with people pushing agendas. A lot of people from the west end of 38 really, really go after us when we start even mentioning a connector road out there. But I find that a little selfish. They already got them a connector road. They don't live out there. Mm-hmm. They get a fire, they got roads they can get out. If they got a family member that's sick, they can get an ambulance there quicker and back on 98 quicker to the hospital. But I'm going to make a point here. Every road we currently have that runs from 98 to 38, it's built through the forest.
Right.
And have been since I was a kid. And I'm 63 years old. And not one square inch of it's been developed. I don't think that's going to open up the state lands to development. people also say, well, y'all just want to do this. There's so many agendas, and I wish people were just like, guys, let's sit down and talk about this, and let's push the agendas out aside, and let's be reasonable. The connector road, this particular connector road, has nothing to do with but moving people and dealing with people I have today.
Right.
I wish I was far enough ahead.
That's
I was
exactly
thinking
right.
about building roads, for the future, but I'm just trying to get us caught up on where to move.
Yeah, if we want to
where
be
we're
super
at today.
restrictive, then let's get to the table and figure out how to take care of where we are, and then we can close the gate behind us. But we better do it now.
You asked me on a lot of issues. We sat here talking on it. You will find that I don't have a lot of answers to a lot of problems.
Sure.
Of how do we get ahead of the curve? I can't see. I'm trying to do what's here today. Right. Hopefully we get to the point we get today caught up where we can start looking ahead. So we're playing catch up, no doubt about it. But, and South Walton too is, and you talk about development. Here's a number I had pulled just a few weeks ago because going around talking to different people. I'm only going to go back to 20 when I was elected. So from November of 20 to now, over 80% of the applications that have been submitted to planning for permits have been denied.
Is that right? That's
so it's hard for me to buy. I know when you live in a neighborhood and you're looking at this from 5,000 foot, it looks huge. When you back up, I don't get that privilege. I have to go, everything I look at is from 30,000 foot. I don't get to drop a pebble in the water and just focus on that first ring. I have to get far enough back and see all the ripple effects. And to say that we're overdeveloping, when you look at, especially in South Walton, when so much of it's in conservation, and I've got a map over here, it would surprise you county-wide how much property's in conservation in this county. I think 47% of the property in South Walton is in conservation. It can't be built on.
Well, I think when people say overdevelopment, they really do have the idea of like
their neighborhood,
the busiest South Walton day, and how frustrating that traffic can be to get in and out.
True.
And Freeport and Defuniak Springs, there's no way that I could be convinced that we're overdeveloping. Now, there's some issues there, like the intersection of 20 and 331. Some more connector roads, water and sewer extension. Yeah. We need that. Yeah. That would be more development in my mind, not being restrictive to overdevelopment. I think the problem in South Walton is because there's so much less land to develop, it stands out more. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you this, I travel all over this state and in some of the biggest cities in the United States. We have finally got to the point where we have morning rush hours and evening rush hours. I hate it, but I don't see it as bad here as other areas. It's not terrific, but I think it's a good point. I think some people just need something to complain about.
Well, no, I understand it. And listen, one thing that I've done that I've learned to do is try to listen to different perspectives. I can feel their pain. I can see things from their perspective, but their perspectives from 5,000 foot, where I have to look at this county-wide. Yeah, that's the biggest thing going on in their life, and I respect that. But I speak for 85,000. I make decisions for everybody, and I have to look at the end of the day, what does the most good for the most people. And to sit there and say and to preach moratoriums, first of all, if we have a vote on the moratorium, 3 people vote yes, we just instantly killed about 20,000 jobs. Mm-hmm. We happen to be in one of the counties that has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state. Pretty much, if you ain't working right now, you don't want to work.
Right. Even
with what we have.
Do you think there's anyone on the commission that would vote for a moratorium today?
On the commission? Yes.
Yeah.
I think you've got some candidates. I just don't think moratorium. Like I said, I got asked the other day about would I support eminent domain about the customary use thing, which is a whole nother onion in itself. And I said, I got no problem putting my finger on the trigger and putting something in my sights, but it will be the last resort. I still think we got some wiggle room on customary. I don't think this thing's going to come to an end But anyway, just throwing out words like that,
right?
Really don't use them flippantly. Think about what you're doing. Let me ask you this: we shut down development. One we'll shut it down countywide. Just think of the people you just put out of work. You know, I mean, people, HVAC, painters, bricklayers. You know the whole gamut. You built homes, and all that. All right. Then next thing you know, the suppliers, Frank's Hardware, the Lowe's, Home Depot, they start laying people off because nobody's buying them. Next thing, our small businesses are shutting the doors because nobody's got money to spend. And then what ends up happening is we end up having to raise the millage rate to cover all the extra stuff we got to pay for everybody because they're not working. And the taxpayers end up taking the blame. I can't
imagine that it would ever even come up for a vote, really. But I know that's how some people are campaigning. And I, like you said, I think it's a pretty...
I believe you have 2 votes on this board for it right now, and a third one. It will happen. Mm-hmm. But, I'm trying to keep this where I'm at, and
right.
I'm trying to. I'm.
It seems like this political season's been a lot of negatively charged.
I started paying actual politics attention starting in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this has been one of the most vicious election cycles I've ever seen. Of course, we have a lot more people, but it's vicious, and I'm somewhat disappointed in some folks. I mean, I respect their First Amendment rights, but where's that line between stating your disappointment and factual to where's that line of just defamation?
Right. There
seems to be no lines, no rules, no more. And I don't know. I don't know where that's taking us. Hopefully, And what that does, though, where I get aggravated about it is not just for mine, but for any candidate, is all that's doing, folks, is just causing more division. We're never going to be able to sit down at this table and put our differences, if we don't put our differences and our party politics aside and all this, letting all these talking heads, that get paid to just keep us divided. I think that's the number one thing. Everybody talks about a unity Walton County. Well, quit listening to the people that's trying to divide us.
Yeah.
Let's come together. Let's sit down here. I don't push agendas. I've actually been criticized by my own party because I push some ideals. I don't care what they're doing in Washington. I don't care what they're doing in Okaloosa County, much less. I don't care whose ideal it is. If we sit here and that solution is the best thing to do for the citizens of Walton County, I'm going to do my best to pull the trigger on it and get it done.
Yeah. Have you seen some of Chaz Galloway's antics that he's putting out there?
I think I've been his number one subject here for a while.
It wouldn't surprise me if you didn't pay attention to any of it. But
I tried not to, but it's hard because this affects my family members, and they get upset and they bring it to my attention. And y'all,
you know, Chaz got his break. His first love was he wanted to be a comedian. He out in Los Angeles did stand up, and so I think in his mind he thinks he's being funny.
I think Chaz is like a lot of other people in this county. We have them up on the north end. They want to be influencers, and they don't have the skill set to actually come do the job. So they're just gonna throw a bunch of crap out there, see what sticks, and then play like they're influencers.
Yeah,
and they're basically shock jocks just trying to get ratings.
Well, I think he got told no by some people that he thought were going to support him, and now he's on a rampage.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate because I think it keeps good people away.
I wish him well.
I
don't. I'm just not going to go there. I've had people come at me, even my friends and supporters. You need to do this, do this. Let me tell you something about me. If nothing else, I have a certain I do have something of a moral compass, and I do have a bar. Maybe it needs to be higher than what it is, but if I've got to lower myself below my own personal standards, y'all can have this job. I'm just not going to go there. One reason I won't do it is his mom, he has family. I mean, the last hit he did on me was a plea to all my family members that are last name McCormick. Y'all need to change y'all's last name. He is embarrassed. And I'm like, whatever. I'm not going to come back with that.
Right.
It's childish, and he's showing his child. If he really cared about issues, he'd come in this office, sit down, and talk to me. But
you haven't seen him in here yet.
Don't expect to.
No, I wouldn't expect that
but
either.
I will say this, just while we're on the topic, we are in early voting. I just want to give the plug. Get out there and vote. Remember, this seat here will be determined in this election. There won't be a November. So don't wait around till other people pick and choose. And then.
Well, before we go, is there anything that you would say to the voter that thinks that they may not vote for you right now? Is there anything about Boots McCormick you want that person to know?
Well, there's a lot of things I could say that have just come across cliche. I'll end it with this. Whoever you vote for, don't let the talking heads on Facebook do your thinking for you. Do your own research. And I have an open door policy. If you want to talk to me, or you want to put a small group together, if you just want to get a pot of coffee and invite your neighborhood HOA over something, call me. I don't tell people what they want to hear. I've stood by that since day one. That's just not me. At least give me a chance to give my side of the story should something be holding you back. But just think for yourself. Do your own research, your own fact finding, and then vote your conscience. That's all I ask. Just mainly get out and vote your conscience. And I am open to sit down with anybody and talk to them about, and I'll leave that part of where it's at.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. What's the big idea with Boots McCormick running for District 1? I appreciate your time, sir.
I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.